Welcome to Mi Keamcha Yisrael. All of us are familiar with the pasuk Chayei Sarah me'ah shana ve'esrim shana ve'shava shanim shnei Chayei Sarah. And the life of Sarah consisted of 100 years and 20 years and 7 years, the years of the life of Sarah. Chazal teach us that when Sarah Imeinu heard of the Akedah, her neshama departed. At first glance, it seems her death was the natural result of shock. That hearing what Avraham was prepared to do to Yitzchak was too much to bear. But Torah's language teaches us otherwise. Shnei Chayei Sarah. These were the years of Sarah's life, meaning these were precisely the years divinely allotted to her. Her mission in this world had reached completion, and heaven itself called her home. Rav Avraham Pam drew from this a timeless lesson. He once recalled sitting Shiva for his father, listening at his brothers, wondered if perhaps another doctor, another treatment, another medication might have prolonged their father's life. Their mother interrupted and gently said, "Papa's time was up. We did our hishtadlut, the rest was up to Borei Olam." Those few words carry an eternal truth. Yes, of course we must act. We must plan, build, and do our part, but the outcome, the result belongs to Borei Olam. How many careers, shidduchim, and opportunities appear out of nowhere? Not from strategy, not from logic, but from a single encounter or a moment that no human could have designed. The Chovot HaLevavot in Shara Bitachon calls it foolishness to trust in Ishtadlut itself. He compares it to a stray dog that frightened people in the street until a policeman struck it with a stick. Later, when the officer left, the dog returned, not to attack the officer, but the stick. Absurd, isn't it? The stick did nothing. It was merely the tool in the officer's hand. So too in life, our hishtadlut is a stick. Borei Olam is the one who wields it. Even what seems like cause and effect, our efforts, our choices, are merely the channels through which his will ultimately flows. He alone determines where each neshama will walk and where it will rest. Often Borei Olam reveals this truth not through words of musar, but through the unfolding of life itself, moments that defy logic and remind us that even what seems to be in human hands is entirely directly above. In the old cemetery of Krakow, Poland, there lies a modest grave with a haunting inscription. Here lies the remains of an unknown man. Let his neighbor attest to him. That neighbor was none other than the great tzaddik, the Megaleh Amukos Zatzal. Years earlier, a young man had approached the shamash of the Heavan Kadisha with an unusual request. He wished to purchase in advance a plot beside the Megaleh Amukos. The shamosh, an honorable elder, dismissed him. Who was this simple fellow to be buried near such kedusha? But the young man quietly offered a large sum of money. The shamash hesitated, then rationalized, "I've worked all my life. Perhaps this will bring me some peace before I go." He accepted the payment and said nothing. Years passed. The shamash lived on, but the young man, he died. When the burial came, no one knew of their secret side hustle. So the Heavan Kadisha buried him elsewhere. That night, the very night, the shamosh dreamed that the young man appeared before him, demanding his rightful place beside the Megaleh Amukos. He awoke in fright and he ignored it, but the dream returned again and again. On the fourth night, the voice warned, "If you don't fulfill your word, you will be summoned before the heavenly court." Terrified, the old man ran to Rabbi Yoel Sirkis, the holy Bach, who in turn rebuked him. "You had no right to take that money. Return it, give it to tzedakah for the merit of this man's neshama. But as for the grave, it will not be moved." The shamash trembled. "What should I do? What should I do if he returns to me?" "Tell him that if there must be judgment, it will take place here in my study, not in Shemayim." The next day, the shamash arrived. A curtain had been drawn in the Bach's room, and from the other side came the voice of the deceased. He pleaded his case. "I paid for my place beside the Megaleh Amukos." The Bach said, "What is your name?" The man replied, "I'm forbidden to reveal it." The Bach said, "If you will not tell us who you are, how can we possibly know that you're worthy to lie beside this tzaddik?" The voice was silent. The Bach then went on. Fasten your seatbelts. "If your neshama truly belongs there, then go. Move yourself to that place." The very next morning, the Heavan Kadisha returned to the cemetery. That man's grave was empty, beside the Megaleh Amukos, a fresh mound of earth untouched by human hands. And so they inscribed on the stone, "Here lies the remains of an unknown man. Let his neighbor attest to him." To this day, if you travel to this holy Beit HaChayim, the stone still stands. Ladies and gentlemen, the Torah tells us that when Sarah Imeinu heard of the Akedah, her soul took flight. But Rav Avraham Pam teaches it wasn't heartache that ended her life, it was timing. At the precise instant her son was spared, her mission was complete. Her departure wasn't a reaction, it was a decree, because even what feels accidental is written with the precision by the author of all life. And centuries later, in that quiet cemetery of Krakow, the same hand continued to write. An unknown man dismissed by others, he paid for a plot, decided tzaddik, and was denied. But Shemayim had already reserved his place. The shamash, the coin, the dreams, all were merely the stick. The hand that guided it was the same hand that closed Sarah Imeinu's eyes. Her final breath and this nameless man's final resting place shared the same whisper, that no one decides who rises, who falls, who stays, or who goes except the Borei Olam himself. Yes, we chase control, but we never hold it. We plan, but we're not the authors, because Hishtadlut is only the motion. Hashgacha is the music. And sometimes Shemayim grants us a glimpse in the stillness of a mother's final breath, in the silence of an empty grave newly filled beside a tzaddik, just so that we'll remember nothing is random. Sarah's story did not end in Heavan, and his did not end in Krakow. Both came to rest exactly where heaven intended, written by the same unseen hand that continues to write ours. That is the whisper woven through every twist of our own lives. Kutcha Baricho, he still holds the pen. And the story, well, guess what? It's not yet finished. Shabbat Shalom and Mivarach.